All right, so I'm going to now take my ADM by year separated by each LEA and actually duplicate this now to quickly create a school level ADM file. One nice thing about Tableau is that we can very easily replicate visualizations, and you can see some situations where this might be useful if you're looking to compare two different measures or other things like that. It's really easy to go down here and where I see my tab, in this case I have it named LEA ADM by year, I just right click and click on duplicate. And when I duplicate here, not surprisingly, I see everything shows up in a second place, but it preserves my original file. So I'm going to actually rename this one as school ADM by year. And instead of having all of my different LEAs out here as colors, I'm actually going to throw this in as a filter. And instead of taking this off and having to drag this over to put in my LEA name as a filter, I can actually just straight up bring the LEA name, instead of being a color, drag it over to the filters. I'll have my options here, and I'm just going to go ahead and select all for now and click OK. Not surprisingly, now that I've removed the LEA name as a color, I now see all of my LEAs as the same color. And now I'm going to show my filter. And when I do that over here, I'm going to see all of my LEA names that I had from my previous view. And I really just want to look at one at a time. So I'm going to change this here to be a single value and drop down. Now there's one more thing that we can do. You notice here there's always going to be this all value as a default in each of your filters. If I click that here, it's going to put all of the lines back on my graph. But I can actually get this to not appear as an option. So I'm going to switch down and I'm going to change, let's just say, to Allegheny County Schools. Notice here when I've filtered this out, I just get the line for Allegheny. I'm able to see the student number. This is a relatively small, see over time that the enrollment is declining. But I can remove that all option from my filter by going to the little arrow here, clicking Customize, and removing this Show All value. So now whenever I pull up my filter, I'm only going to see each of the district names and not be able to select all at once. Now that I have my LEA selected, I want to go ahead and break out a separate line for each of the schools within the LEA. So I'm going to easily do that here by going down to seeing where I have my school name, clicking and dragging that over to color, and I'm going to go ahead and add all of the members. And in this case here, I'm going to see only the 4 schools that are part of that LEA. Now, similar to what I did with my LEA name, I can also go over here and put in my school name as a filter. This is not as big of a deal for a small district like this, but if we have a larger district, you may want to have more control over that. And again, I can go to Select from List. All of my schools appear. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and show this filter as well. Now, one interesting thing happens here whenever I display the school name is I see a lot of school names that I know are not part of my district that I'm looking for. If we want Tableau to adjust and only show us the relevant values for the other filter that we've considered, so in this case we only want to see the school names that are within the LEA we selected, we can go here to this little drop down arrow, and instead of where it says all values in database, we want to change it to only relevant values. So again, that was just right here with only relevant values. And if we select that, now my filter is going to only display those school names that are in the LEA that I selected. And just like we've done before, we can move these things around. I'm actually going to put my LEA name right on top of my school name. And then if I go to a somewhat larger district, let's say Buncombe County, notice here initially I don't get any lines that appear, but this is a case where I actually do want to display all of the values. And when I display all here, we see a separate line for each school, and I can actually see each individual school utilizing this highlighter function by going down here to the color legend and just clicking on one of those. So this is another way that I can isolate and see different values in my data by utilizing filters and by highlighters. So with that, we now have a display where we can go back and we can see our LEAs, and we can zoom in on a specific LEA and look at all of the schools there. So now we've gotten a chance to experiment a bit with line graphs, and the next video is going to go through and look at aggregating some of these values together by county in a map.